Welcome to Thursdays on the Stoop. I'm Julian, and today we have Back in a Flash with Mansi Bhagwate. Mansi is a writer, occupational therapist, and animal rights activist. A graduate of Drexel University's MFA program in creative writing, she explores the intersection of humans and animals in her writing. Her writing has appeared in Beyond Words Literary Magazine, Short Fiction Break, and Wild Sound Poetry Festival, among others. Mansi volunteers with the Penn Prison Writing Program, mentoring incarcerated writers and reclaiming their voices. She is the founder of Divergent Ink, a coaching platform for neurodivergent writers that combines sensory-friendly tools, inclusive pedagogy, and creative mentorship. So happy to have you here today, Mansi. Go ahead and take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for that introduction. So I see that a lot of people have joined, so that's actually amazing. If you don't mind putting your name in the chat and what kind of writing you like to do, that would be really great. And then I just wanted to put it out there. I do write a Substack. It's called Room of One's Own. It has feminist leanings. It's about how women should and must occupy space in different kinds of environment. If you want to receive that newsletter, please put your email in there too, and I will add you to that email list. And then I have a hard stop at 2. Well, I'm in California, so 2 p.m. So 5 p.m. Because I'm at work, and I'm actually sneaking out of work to do this. So so I do have a hard stop, but I would love to have any questions at the end of the session. So I'm gonna share my screen, and okay. Oops, this was supposed to start from the beginning. Okay, there you go. All right, so today we're going to talk about flash fiction and mostly returning to the page after creative burnout. This is the agenda. We're going to understand what creative burnout is and our nervous system. This is my occupational therapy background. We're going to apply that to writing. Why flash fiction? Why you should focus on flash fiction when you are burnt out. We're going to do a closed reading of Sejal Shah's flash fiction and then key craft takeaways from that writing. We're going to do a guided grounding and generative writing prompt for about 10 minutes. Here, if you want to read some of your work, I would love to have that. And then how to care for, revise, or rest a burnout era flash draft once you have that in place. So let's talk about burnout a little bit. We talk about burnout a lot these days, but it's important to understand what burnout is in terms of creativity and creative writing. So, burnout is not writer's block. Burnout is actually a physiological symptom of too much stress. Burnout is what comes after we are in fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. So I'm sure everybody has heard of the fight or flight response. It's usually a trauma response to having too much stress put on us due to life and circumstances. So we either want to fight, which means we get angry or cranky or frustrated all the time. We want to flight. We want to run away from the traumatic stimulus. We sometimes fawn, which is people pleasing. So that again can be considered a traumatic response. And then sometimes we just freeze up. There's nothing going on in the brain because there's just too much going on in the outside world. So some common signs of burnout are exhaustion and brain fog, insomnia, poor sleep, sometimes excessive sleep, difficulty focusing on things, sadness, numbness, and self-blame. Self-blame is an important one because when you want to write, and life gets in the way and you can't do it, there's a lot of self-blame. Oh, I should be writing, I should be doing this, I love writing, why am I not able to sit down and just get this on the page? So that self-blame is an important part of what leads to burnout. So burnout comes from responsibilities. Caregiving takes up a lot of time, whether it's animals or human beings. Um, Work takes up a lot of our mental capacity, and then when you go back home, you really don't have any bandwidth to sit down and craft characters or write these amazing sensory descriptions or anything like that. Survival, especially in today's political climate. And then we're being bombarded with news 24/7. And believe it or not, I think there was NPR actually did a whole thing about this where they're talking about how we're increasingly stressed and we're increasingly in fight or flight because of news, because there's so much violence, there's so much destruction going on all around us. We're not meant to know these things 24/7. So again, just basic survival. And then life happening without pause, not being able to take time off work, time off caregiving, time off our responsibilities due to financial constraints or emotional constraints, and just life keeps going on. And that leads to burnout. So if anybody has told you, if you're struggling with writing and anybody has told you, just write, that is terrible, terrible advice. I'm sorry. Burnout is not a failure of our will or our talent. It doesn't say, oh, you're not talented. Or if you were, you should be able to sit down and write. It's a nervous system state. And just in when someone says just right, we as human beings, as animals, right, out in we're animals too, as out in the environment, our body prioritizes safety over creativity. So when you force it to be productive, it leads to increased shutdown. And then it's like a vicious cycle of not being able to be creative, not being able to pursue this passionate, hobby that you have or career that you have, that and you want to be a writer and you can't do it. So writing comes after regulation and not before it. So I want us to try real quick some, I would say, let's try the first two regulation techniques, and I guarantee you these work. When I was in therapy, my therapist told me about doing deep breathing whenever I was feeling increasingly overwhelmed or emotionally overwhelmed. And at first, I was like, what do you mean deep breathing? Right. But the thing is, when we are in that panic stricken stage, we tend to use a lot of shallow breathing. We tend to use our neck muscles rather than our diaphragm. So if you focus on moving your diaphragm up and down instead of using your neck muscles, that deep breathing actually really helps us feel calm. So for the first one, you all of you can see me, right? You can still see me? Okay. So for the first one, we're going to try a technique, a pranayam technique that comes from yoga practice. What you do is you put your thumb on one of your nostrils, and with the open nostril, you take a nice deep breath. We're going to try this out. You hold it for 3 seconds, and then you exhale through the other nostrils for 3 seconds. So this is how it goes. Okay. So I want us to try this real quick. And then when you're doing that, make sure you're not using your neck muscles, because that's what we tend to do. Make sure you're focusing on your diaphragm that's in the stomach. You can also put one hand on the stomach if that's easier for you. Let's do it one more time. So deep breath. Okay. So that's our first exercise. The second exercise is we tend to put a lot of our tension when we are stressed in our faces and in our shoulders. So just take your fingers like that and then do light facial tapping, just really light. Start from the forehead, close your eyes. Start from the forehead and then just tap, 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 tap really gentle, and you should feel that tension slowly melting away. You should feel like you're relaxing that face. Then you can also do it more consciously. So tap, 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 tap your jaw. And then you can also tap your shoulders gently, because again, we tend to put a lot of that stress in our shoulders. And then you can also pair that with deep breathing as you're doing that. And then the third exercise is a brief relaxation practice, which you can do it in sitting, but it's usually better if you do it right before you go to bed. And basically what that entails is you focus on each part of the body, and you tighten the body part and then relax it completely. So how it goes is you close your eyes and you focus on tighten your forehead and then let it go. Tighten those eyes and let it go. Clench your jaw and let it go. And then you focus on each body part until you fall asleep. Believe me, if you are struggling with sleep or sleep hygiene, this is a really good exercise to get into the habit of falling asleep on time. And then, like I said before, writing comes from regulation. So I hope that some of these exercises were um, helpful and will be helpful to you in your practice. Um, all right. So now let's look at the actual writing. Why are we talking about flash fiction in the context of burnout? So flash fiction is defined as a very short piece of narrative prose, typically under 1,500 words, that creates meaning through compression, focus, and accumulation rather than a full plot or resolution. It often centers on a single moment, pattern, or emotional pressure point, trusting implication, repetition, and precise detail to do the work of larger stories. So, flash fiction is a shift and not a journey. In my writing practice, this little quote that I actually saw on Twitter or X um, really changed how I view flash fiction and how I view short stories. It's a shift. It's not a full journey from birth to death. It's more of a shift in perspective, and that really helped me with writing. So flash fiction is really good to get into the habit of writing again. It's not an essay, it's not poetry, and it's not a novel, right? It's still fiction, it's still telling someone else's story, but it's short, and that's why it doesn't take too much energy to write. And you can still have a finished piece of writing that you can be proud of, that you're putting out into the world. Novels can be too large, essays do demand a little bit of research and coherence, and then poems can really feel emotionally exposed. So flash fiction works because it's short and it allows fragments. You don't necessarily need the three arc story structure. There doesn't need to be an inciting incident. There doesn't need to be a conflict or a suspense or a twist. There can be, of course, but there doesn't need to be. And it doesn't require a resolution. A lot of flash fiction kind of just meanders away. It still makes you think, it still kind of changes you in a subtle way, but it's not like a novel where there is like a resolution at the end that you have to have it. And when you have limited physical and mental energy, flash fiction is the best thing you can do for your writing practice. So you keep those creative juices flowing. Flash fiction, you can write from memory, you can write about your recurring thoughts and fears, and you write what you know. You don't necessarily have to do a lot of research about this. So we're going to look at Sejal Shah's story. Does someone want, I'm going to pull it up quickly. Does someone want to volunteer to read it? Hold on, let me just put the link in the link over here. Just going to stop sharing for a little bit. Am I still sharing my screen?
No.
No, right? Okay. Let me just put it over here. All right, so I put a PDF document. It's not even that long. Let's take about 5 minutes to read the story. If someone wants to volunteer to read it aloud, that would be great. If not, we can just read it ourselves and then we can discuss what makes this flash fiction very effective. Anybody wants to volunteer?
I can read it. Would you like, that's you? Yeah, I can read.
That's perfect. Are you able to open the PDF of that?
Yes, I have it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, The Girl with Two Brothers. When I was 12 or 13, we lived in the house on Old Massapalg Road, and I used to dream what I thought all girls dreamt. Someone snatched me, began to work off my clothes. You were there watching. Your gray eyes troubled your face. You rescued me. You pushed him and his ski mask aside. You yelled out various ways you would punish him. He ran through a side street, scaled a fence, disappeared. You stroked my face. How soft, you murmured. You kissed me. How marvelous, I thought. How miraculous. I'm breathing and I'm kissing at the same time. We ran, then walked past the high school, our blue sneakers breaking the dark. You saved the only thing worth saving. This is how our story always began. My dreams stopped around the same time I thought of wanting a camera, of needing some way to record. I wasn't thinking about shutter speed, about aperture, about flash. My oldest brother was tired of my asking to borrow his things or of my borrowing them without asking. Before the idea of a camera, I thought of the usual things living in olden times, a secret conversation in a secret language. I was the only one who understood. I thought of running away, of what I would save in my house in case of a fire, which albums I would grab, and which dolls. I was all about orphanhood, the plane from Chicago crashing. We would have to go live in California with my father's brothers. One of them was our legal guardian, and I wonder who thought to tell me that. Is that what parents are supposed to tell? Or did I ask them, knowing how these things go, knowing how these things may go? I was always asking, who will take care of me if you go? How will I live if you go? Did all children dream these things then in quilts of birds and falls and forgotten red bicycles? I thought of how my parents would cry uncontrollably when I died at a young age from a devastating disease. I imagined the wake, their friends circling them, the plates of slightly stale cake, the enlarged photos of me wreathing the walls, the scrapbook with every Mother's Day and birthday card I had ever made, the slightly discolored green construction paper, school glue still shining in smudges. My older brothers would cry. I had never seen them cry, but they would have to force the tears. I was dead after all. For once, the applause I had been waiting my whole life for. Or if our parents died, perished in a plane crash, who would we refuse to be shipped off to California? Would we live in an abandoned train car next to the elementary school in the Bramble, near where the middle school kids came to smoke and flick their red and yellow lighters? Would we flee to New Jersey, to our other's uncle's house, refusing to leave the East Coast? Where would we play our secret game, the white witch, the purple policeman, the green ghost, circling? My oldest brother had the banana seat bike we both wanted. My middle brother had matchbox cars he raced for hours. All I had was Light Bright and makeup head Barbie. Perhaps our relatives wouldn't want all three of us. We would have to fight to be together. We would not let ourselves be split up, or we'd have to fight to get to California. All three of us crossing the Mississippi like two cats and a dog, or two dogs and a cat. In every scenario, I was a cat. I was a well-read child of all the usual fairy tales. I knew how it went. The parents that never lasted beyond the first page. Some of the best ones had the parents dead before the book even began, or the father was mean, or the mother was crazy, or the father was weak, or the mother was dead. All you had was your brother, and in my case, I had two. All you ever had was your brother, and all the ways in which you hoped that he would, that any boy might, try to see you, recognize you, save you, because you were a girl, and you were worth saving. You were worth something.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That was a really good reading.
Thank you.
Okay. So what do we think? If you want to put it in the chat about what you liked about this story, if you thought it was effective, if you didn't like it, just put your thoughts in the chat, or we can talk. You can unmute yourself and we can talk about it. It is. I think it's a great story. The voice, I think that's very important. It's a very distinct voice. What I found interesting about the story is the universality of that experience of wondering what would happen if you were to lose your family, if you were to lose yourself. And I think we all think about these things. And as morbid as it may seem, it's dreamlike. Aliyah says it's dreamlike in that there were several scenes, the first needing a trigger warning. Yep. Who is the you she's talking to? I think she's talking to the brother. What do you guys think? I think there is like a little undercurrent of gender roles, right? She needs the boys to save her, even as a young girl. Lunice says, I was also trying to figure out the you, but at the end she said, you have one brother and I have two. Also, I think they were kissing. So it could be the brother, or so that's like an unreliable narrator. It could be the brother, or it could just be a royal you that she's talking to an audience. It could be, again, open to interpretation. I personally think she's talking to the brother because the story is called A Girl with Two Brothers, and she looks at the brother as a savior, again because of gender roles that have been taught to her. She thinks she needs a man to save her, especially even towards the end. She talks about that. She's never seen her brother crying. And she says, our relatives, that's right. So again, referencing the brothers. Anything else? Interesting reference to fairy tales. What was interesting about that?
Well, I'll just say I thought it was interesting because she's kind of imagining one up for herself.
Mm-hmm.
The mother's dead or the
Yeah.
father's mean and so on. Right. And there's you can imagine an orphan in a fairy tale,
Mm-hmm.
or you can imagine I guess a dead child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very tragic,
Mm-hmm.
like a typical fairy tale, but that also tells you something about her state of mind,
Mm-hmm.
that she's probably not a happy child,
Mm-hmm.
right? So Amber says, so I agree. I think she's talking to the brother. She also, I think, says he only has one brother because he's the second, right? Right. So based on this, I chose this story specifically because it is based on a very universal experience. Fear of death and fear of losing your family and not being able to belong and all of that, right? So the next thing we're going to do, let me actually reshare my screen, and we're going to, okay, so we discussed the story. So flash fiction doesn't require plot, but it does require story. There is a story, and then it doesn't require too much planning. So let's take maybe it's 1:30 now, like California time. It's 4:30 now. So let's take maybe 7 minutes to do a writing prompt. You can write about a fear, a fantasy, or a recurring dream you've had as a child, or you can write about a time you believed you were worth something only because someone noticed you or someone saved you. It can be completely fictional, it can be slightly autobiographical, can be um, anything you want. So I'm going to put a timer on for 7 minutes, and then you can start writing. 7 minutes starting now. If you want the prompt again, I can put it in the chat. 3 more minutes. I've got 90 seconds more. And that's our time. You need a couple more seconds just to finish up that thought. Please do that. And when you're ready, I would love for at least 2 people to read some of their work more if we have some time, because we're almost at the end of the class. Because this is the best part about doing a writing class is I would love to read what you've written. Yeah, if you want to pause the recording while you want to read your work, that would be totally, absolutely fine, of course. I know it's gonna be raw. I know it's not gonna be finished, but I'm sure you have something great written down.
I can break the ice.
Okay.
Okay.
let's go
Every
ahead.
I didn't want to be too like me, but
No,
I'll
it's fine.
okay. All right. It's the same as it was still from when I was a child. Deafening maniacal laughter, tortured screams, stark light blinding, the squeaky clean white hallway, long, endless, stench of bleach, the walk toward captivity, the inevitability of what awaits, terrifying. My sister holding the key, smiling, cajoling me forward with promises of care and protection as I near the end and pass her, her teeth bared, vicious.
Okay. Wow. That was really good. What I really like about that is the specificity. It's not just general details. You're very specific in what you've written. So that's what makes it so unique and uniquely you.
Thank you. Because it was a dream, I played with fracture. Thank you.
That's great. And it took you all of 7 minutes to come up with that, right?
Yeah. I do a lot of timed writing practices for the past 5 years, like since the pandemic. And I actually realized that when I edit, I give my work bad haircuts. I have to be really careful. It's something about the being free in the moment and no self-editing because there's not time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, the bad haircut analogy. I always call my first draft the vomit draft because it's just, well, everything's on the page and then we'll look at it later.
Yeah, yeah. Like where I like to look back when I'm telling versus showing and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You did a good job of showing just in your first draft. So that was good. Anyone else wants to read their work? Anyone else? Don't be shy. This is a safe space. We're all creatives.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My
Oh, wait, Jeanette, you're muted.
okay. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. My camera doesn't work on this, so I'll just read. I dream about being on the subway a lot, missing my stop, waking up on the F train in a strange to me place like Brighton Beach or the nether regions of Queens. Most of the time, there's no train car, just seats like a roller coaster careening through the tunnels, serpentine rise and fall through the dark to a strange destination. Sometimes an outside ride in deepest Brooklyn, riding straight up to the sky. I don't know the other passengers. Everyone seems to know where they are going. Sometimes I'm lost in the train station, running up and down stairs, never on the right platform when the train pulls in. Lost, falling, not strapped in, rolling through the ether on a ride where I don't belong. That's it.
No, that's great. Wow, okay. That was really wonderful.
Thank you.
So again, that universal fear of getting lost in a new place, everybody can identify that, and that's what makes this piece so strong. Is it's very relatable. Anybody can identify with getting lost in a new place and what comes after and how you find your way back. Again, that belonging. So on the surface, it may feel like, oh, this is just about getting lost, but the subtext is you want to belong somewhere, you want to know people, and you don't want to be lost in a place where nobody knows you, and it could potentially become dangerous. So good job. The roller coaster imagery. Anyone else? I think we have time for one more. Now is your chance to shine. Okay, if no one wants to read, we can just go to the closing real quick. So thank you for coming and sharing your writing and writing and and participating. Really appreciate that. I'm just gonna share my screen again. Okay, so we did the writing prompt. Something I wanted to point out was, now that you have written this piece, don't do anything to it for the next, I would say, 48 hours. If you go to edit it now, it may end up being really messy, and sometimes you lose the meaning that you were going for. Do not polish it, do not explain it, and do not judge it for now. Let it rest for 48 hours, then you can go back and edit it and see if you want to make it longer, if you want to keep it the same length. There are lots of places you could submit this to. Flash Fiction Magazine is one of them. They're always looking for things to publish. So if you feel confident, you can submit it or keep working on it. The important thing about flash fiction is repetition. There are recurring or repeating themes and motives. And once you have that down, you can write really strong flash fiction. So why flash fiction is, when life has taken too much, writing can simply hold what remains behind. Flash fiction is not a shortcut to writing. It's a shelter. It will nurture your writing practice when you don't have enough time, enough bandwidth. And then if all you can write is one page, you're still writing, you're still creating, you're putting your work out there. And that's what matters to us as writers. Thank you again for attending and taking time out of your schedule and being a part of this. I really appreciate it. My email is here if you want to email me with any questions, any clarifications, or you want me to share the PowerPoint with you. Happy to do that. And we do have some time, so I'm going to open it up to questions if you have any. And let me stop sharing.
I hopped in a little bit late and I came right at the very end of your first regulation breathing exercise. Do you mind just talking us through that a little bit again?
Sure. So deep breathing really helps us feel calmer, right? It helps with anxiety and just feeling regulated overall. I don't know if you missed the part about me talking about how we use our neck muscles for breathing for the most part, instead of using our diaphragm. So what deep breathing does is it teaches us to focus on our diaphragm to breathe, instead of just using our secondary neck muscles. So the exercise I taught was called pranayam, which is part of yoga practice. So what you do is you take your thumb, you close one nostril, and you breathe in through one nostril, you hold for 3 seconds, and then you breathe out through the other nostril. So it looks like this. That's what it looks like. You can repeat it 3 to 5 times. And the only thing I would like to focus on is to make sure you're not using your neck and shoulders to breathe, and then focusing more on that diaphragm. If you want, you can put your hand on your stomach while you breathe, so you can feel it going up and down. And if you incorporate this practice every single day, I guarantee you will feel so much better in your own body and feel more relaxed and focused too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you so much. I was wondering, I think you said flash fiction doesn't require a plot, but it does need a story. And I was wondering if you could address that, like what is the difference there?
Sure. So think of any story, right? In most stories, there are characters and something happens, and then one thing leads to another, right? The plot then is what happens that leads one character from one place to another to another. So in plot, we usually have the inciting incident. Oh, there was a car accident. That's the inciting incident. In story, it's very simple. What you see on the page is the story, right? So I'm not sure what you wrote about, but let's talk about Sejal Shah's story. There is a story, but there isn't necessarily a plot. There isn't one inciting incident that starts the story and moves the plot forward. There isn't one character who comes in and then saves her. It's more, it kind of just unfolds. That's the story, but there isn't a plot to that. Does that make any sense? So plot's more concrete, story is more abstract.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Anybody else have any questions? Julian's asking, is there a particular piece of flash fiction that originally made you fall in love with the genre? Yeah, actually, I read a story by O. Henry, and O. Henry, The Gift of the Magi, that's the very famous one, but this was a flash fiction piece he had written. And there was a twist at the end, and it was a very short story, but the twist was so amazing that it just made me fall in love with that, with flash fiction. I'm trying to think what the name of that story was. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Oh, it's called The Cop and the Anthem. I'm gonna put it here. It's called The Cop and the Anthem. Thanks, Regina. Will do. Thanks, Satish, too. All right. So if nobody has any questions or needs clarification, Julian, I think we are done. You can take over from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that fabulous session. And thank you to everyone who participated, especially our brave readers. I'm going to share a couple things about Blue Stoop and some useful links for you as soon as I figure out where they are. There they are. Okay, great. So I'm going to paste them in the chat right now. The first link is a feedback survey, so you can let Mansi know what a great job she did. The second link, if you have a skill to share, or if you just have a prompt you'd like to share and you don't have to be too confident about the skill part of that, check out the open call for Thursdays on the Stoop proposals. There's even a video in the description of that section of the webpage that tells you more details about how to do it and what we're looking for. My only advice to you is not to pitch something that is the exact same class that we have running right now. Aside from that, the world is your oyster. Is that how the phrase goes? Something's your oyster. Other events to be aware of. Tonight, if you live in the Philadelphia area, we'd love to see you at Dalek Restaurant in West Philly for a happy hour. There's no cover charge, and there's drinks and mocktails and snacks starting at like $4 or $5. It's pretty affordable. We'd love to see you there from 5 to 7 p.m. East Coast time tonight. And this Saturday on Zoom, since there's a big snowfall predicted, we are doing our belated end of fall semester celebration for the students and teachers and anyone who wants to hear them read what they worked on. We'll do raffle prizes. There will be a little bit of an exquisite corpse game going on. That's a poetry game. It'll be fun. It'll be cute. You'll hear statements from co-directors past and present, including myself, and we'd love to see you. Tickets are $15, but if you use the promo code SNOWDAY, they are $10. So all the proceeds support our financial aid program and scholarships and free programs like this one. So if you want to help us out, we'd love to see you there, or you can pitch in however you feel called to pitch into the fundraiser. Next week's Thursdays on the Stoop, totally still up in the air, to be honest with you, figuring that out as we speak. But the following week, we'll be back at it with a session on performing your work aloud for an audience. I'll have a link to that on our events page as soon as it's available. But in the meantime, I definitely recommend subscribing to our weekly newsletter to stay up to date on all things Blue Stoop. So that is the end of my spiel. Thank you again for being here. Thank you, Mansi, for the session. And I hope you all have a good rest of your day.